we should have a sponsorship with Monster.
I was just thinking that
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, why don't you turn that can a little bit there? Let's.
Just in case. Or should
yeah.
I turn it away?
Oh no.
It's a nice can, actually.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very cool. I like that. What's the name for that? Like, actually, very fitting that we're talking about Towns Van Zandt today. And you see that skeleton there? That's like a Mexican thing.
Sugar skull?
Yeah, like that's a thing, right? Like where you.
Yeah.
Is it a Mexican thing, or am I being complete?
No, I think you're right. It actually, well, all the Monster cans, how you can read that if you want.
Oh,
it's the day. I mean, half of it's in another language, but it's just about the drink and. Sorry, I think it says.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
sugar skulls.
But being that Towns Van Zandt, his most popular song is called Poncho and Lefty.
Right.
You know, that was it's kind of his signature song. The chorus is all the federal. They say they could have had him any day. They only let him slip away out of kindness, I suppose. So it's a story of two guys, and it's hard to know what exactly happens in the song. I think that's why it was so brilliant. He is the ultimate storyteller.
Yeah.
He's also the ultimate, I could get slapped for saying this, but he's the ultimate guy where I would rather hear other people sing his songs.
Yeah.
We listened to a bit as we were setting up here.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like he was trained.
No, definitely not trained. He's trained, I believe they call it a road scholar, R-O-A-D, as opposed to Rhodes. Anyway.
Right.
So you should maybe crack that open a bit. We're just talking officially about, how about these cold opens? Hey, my name is KARAC Hendriks, Cohen Hendricks across the table. We're talking about Towns Van Zandt's debut album, For the Sake of the Song. We're opening up the copy here from the Vinyl Me Please Essentials series. They just started a country stream now.
Oh, yeah.
The country that they had done over the last, I don't know how long they've been going now, but...
Well, you've been subscribed for a while, because I remember you said you were going to unsubscribe after like 3 months, and then
they sucked me in for 3 more months.
Yeah, a few more months.
Well, and then on top of that, they also do these amazing box set things. Like I still really want the Herbie Hancock one. I don't know why. I do know why. Oh yeah, take a look at for anyone watching on YouTube. Yeah, that's the artwork that comes with it.
Abby Losing is the artist that says on back here. Yeah. So I guess check her out.
Yeah, that's very. I don't know if all of their albums have this, but a lot of them are accompanied by a piece of artwork that is inspired by either the artist or the album, and this is one of them. You can see why too. I mean, even the cover, that's the original cover. If I recall, like this album has a weird situation. Like when I made the playlist too, that album's not even available on streaming.
Oh, really?
But he is one of these guys that like he's re-recorded a lot of his songs over the years. So yeah, it's really unfortunate. But this one is available on CD. I think it had been reissued. Oh yeah, so they're saying 2004 or 2007 Fat Possum Records. So yeah, again, don't know a whole pile about that, but yeah, the Towns Van Zandt history. I don't know a whole pile about him, but his legacy it's just beyond compare. My first awareness of him, like he was just one of those names that you had to know. The Emmylou Harris version of Poncho and Lefty was the first one, but the Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard duet was a huge hit, so I presume that really helped him a lot over the years. He, like a lot of people that we end up talking about, he was a really bad alcoholic and a drug addict, and but the tortured elements of his life made for some amazing music.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
it's like Mac Miller's interview on I think it was Larry King. He said that he's like, all my suffering wasn't for nothing, so I'm doing this art because I don't want all my pain to be for nothing, so I may as well make something out of it. And then he died, which sucks.
It does. It's sad that that's where things end up going. They we were talking about like Post Malone. Like I will not be surprised to see him dead. So,
well, did you see that actually? A lot of people were comparing his performances. I think it was a few months ago now, to Amy Winehouse's last performances. Which sucks. And then I think a lot of people were on the other side of it, like, oh, don't worry, whatever, blah blah blah. And then I think he commented too on it, but I mean, regardless, I mean, when you openly admit that you're getting face tattoos because you think you're ugly,
Ugh.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
that's not something to just brush off your shoulder. Like,
Just breaks my heart. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because again, like a lot of these newer artists too, they're not necessarily people I'm listening to, but they're definitely people that either you're listening to or you're at least far more aware of just in your because of your generation. And we can put that together later too.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna
all
say I
good,
don't.
yeah.
Does this go on the inside?
No, that's an Obi strip, so it always goes on the
On the
outside.
outside,
but,
okay.
we'll
I'll just leave it
talk
out
that
then.
up too. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, we'll give us.
Yeah.
We might have to reference it later too. It's a beautiful package, and I just thought like so. Long story short, I didn't have this album. It's not available on streaming. It is available on CD, I think used at least. I could have picked it up, but I also have read too that it's not a great record.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so a lot of these artists, when they're this unpolished, that is where the beauty lies, is the fact that they're pretty raw.
Yeah.
But they often try to streamline it a bit to get some success. And the guy I always say that was able to strike the balance was Guy Clark. So they were good pals, and they all came through that lineage of Texas singer-songwriters. And then, but Guy was able to find a way to maintain a level of like success as a solo artist, even though he and his wife Susanna were they were kind of like the mom and dad of
Right.
that whole collection of songwriters. We talked about the movie Heart-Worn Highways. That is
Yes, yeah,
going to be we should probably watch that together
Yeah.
pretty soon. I'm due for that again. I have it on DVD. It had been out of print for a while. I think it's back again. Heart-Worn Highways was filmed in the mid 70s, but it has it just shows that snapshot of when there was sort of a torch handoff. Although these guys were not even near the end of their careers by any means at that time, but you see a really young Rodney Crowell and a really young Steve Earle,
Right.
who were at the feet of these guys, and their paths then crossed. They became, Steve and Rodney in particular, became great songwriters in their own right, producers, artists. But there would be no those guys if it wasn't for Townes and definitely with Guy Clark too.
Yeah, I kind of picture like, I don't know, someone like him as one of those, I guess, kings that you don't really hear about.
Well, it's funny how
Very-
yesterday we were just talking about Lenny Breau.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, our industry is full of these tragic but inspiring stories. Also, I mean, a guy like Blaze Foley too.
Yeah, I don't know. who
Yeah,
that is.
well, I mean, and again, these are guys too that like I worship at the altar of these people, even though I don't necessarily have a master's degree in studying them, right? So I am always in awe of them. But I've always been more interested in the people that can kind of bring it together. I guess like a Guy Clark that, he will always be remembered. He's passed on now, but as one of the best songwriters of all time, any genre, it doesn't matter. There was no one that could tell a story better than him. No one that could turn a phrase. In fact, in my opinion, near the end, like of his life, he was so good. It was almost like too good. Like there were some lines that were like it almost didn't move me because you could tell he crafted it so well.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't quite have like any edge to it there, but it was still like just so brilliant, This creative people that, and I'm sure Guy was a bit tortured too. I don't know, a lot about him either, but I do remember meeting him. That's one of
really?
my earliest memories. Yeah.
Cool.
So one of my first musical experiences is I went to the Edmonton Folk Music Festival when I was about 5 or 6. I think we went for a couple of years in a row, and Guy was there.
Cool.
And I vaguely remember, like, I didn't talk to him, of course, but I just remember him being really tall. And maybe he wasn't tall, and I was just a little gaffer. But yeah,
He was just like in front of you, or
no. My dad actually went to talk to him. Yeah,
Cool.
so I went with him. Yeah, because the folk festival was always will be this place where you can interact with the people that are there.
yeah,
I'm not sure if Edmonton in particular, the Folk Fest is unique that way, but it definitely is one of the leaders in that. So you go to a show, they'll perform, let's say Saturday afternoon, but the next day, Sunday morning, they're also doing like a workshop, like a master class jam session in another tent over on the side. So I went when the Folk Fest was early on, but it has grown and grown. Your mom and I went a few years back to see Brandy Carlisle, but I don't know. I'd just rather stay home and watch stuff on TV, unfortunately. But it is fun, and I mean, and that is the lifeblood of our careers. Your future career is festivals, no matter what genre you're in. And there's a whole lifestyle around going to festivals, concerts, and you're with your tribe when you're in those moments, right? So now we'll hopefully getting out of this COVID nonsense. We can get back to reality. But I'm not sure if town's ever made it up this way or not. I would imagine. I'm sure there's a lot of people that could fill us in.
When did he die?
He died in 97. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
what happened?
Officially, cardiac arrhythmia caused by health problems from years of substance abuse, according to the wiki. That makes sense. There is a documentary about him specifically, which I don't have, and it's out of print, and it's really expensive to buy used, so I'm going to have to go on the hunt. It might actually be in pieces on YouTube as well, but it was called Be Here to Love Me. That's one of the songs we were just listening to as well.
Yeah.
He is... if the wiki machine is to be believed, and I think it is, because there's been enough already documented on them. Where wiki falls down is when there's no references, right? So it's built on the referencing, and it's also because it's a user-based thing. It relies on people checking it too, and going in and correcting it.
That reminds me of something we should do on here is a Wikipedia race, but like music themed. I don't know if I told you about those, but you start on one wiki page and try and end up at another, and you can only use links within the page.
There's nothing more I hate than when I'm in a wiki and the links aren't working properly.
Oh yeah.
If I cared that much, I would actually go in and fix them. But like if you're doing like a discography, you can it'll show you the one, and then you can click one back or one forward. It'll show you, but then sometimes you can't click the one, or it's red because it's broken for some reason. Yeah. So then you got to research or whatever. That would be a good
episode.
Good race. Yeah.
Because there's a thing called stream sniping when people are streaming like things on Twitch or whatever, and if it's an online thing, people that are watching will go and kind of mess it up purposely on the stream. And some people like during Wikipedia races have like edited some of the pages like during the stream.
Oh my God.
I think that would be fun. Side content to create.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's I'm going to try and get through this phase of kind of going through the catalog, and I'm looking at it at another style podcast too. I think where it'll be more interview based and topic based. This one is definitely my self-indulgent way to start just shaking the cobwebs off of my my collection, I guess, so to speak. And plus, I'm trying to get as much time with you as I can in before you end up getting so busy that I can't.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Soon.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. But it's been
cool,
a fun journey for sure. But so this album, For the Sake of the Song, this is technically his debut album, and I mean, he was obviously discovered as an amazing singer songwriter. But they put a lot of production elements on it, and it just didn't. Clearly it didn't work for any of them. And it's so funny that Rodney Crowell ended up producing I think a couple albums for Guy Clark, but so that's cool. And the student becomes
definitely
involved, but because Rodney had married Roseanne Cash, and Cash's daughter, and became a very amazing producer in his own right. Still one of my favorite producers, but anyway, he produced an album on Guy, and the song "The Randall Knife" is one of Guy's best known songs and best songs anyway. But the song has like drums and like bass, like it's a full band production, and even Guy at the time. Right, read an article later. He's like, I had to re-record that. He re-recorded it on an album later. He's like, that should have never had drums on it. And I can kind of see it. I'm used to it the way it was done with Rodney's treatment. But so sometimes, these guys, they're really hard to produce unless you just let them be acoustic based, music, like albums, because the beauty is in the songs. The problem you've probably had, and I've even had too, is that sometimes this stuff all sounds the same. Like there are a couple different strumming patterns or finger picking patterns that a lot of these guys use, a lot of chord progressions.
Yeah.
The lyrics are great, of course, but didn't we talk about John Prine here not that long ago?
Yeah.
He kind of falls into this camp too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it can be said about anything. Like, I think it just depends on how much it grabs you at face value. Because, for hip hop, I think a lot of people that don't listen to it are probably just like, oh, it's just all 808s and computer drums and people rapping about drugs and prog, it's just crazy time signatures and 7-string guitars and I don't know.
It's just not true. But I mean, but I do understand
at face value though. If it grabs you and you can delve into it and explore the, I guess, smaller details and differences, that's kind of what keeps you in. But I think for me, I haven't been super grabbed by I guess someone like Towns. Not yet anyways.
But you've been grabbed by people that heavily influenced.
Definitely.
Like Isbell is the best example of there would be no Isbell without a Towns.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Exactly.
Towns is in that, the Dylan thing again, we talked a lot about that before, but the Bob Dylan thing really started this idea, these folky troubadours that are like living the life they're singing. And that's why I have so much respect for these guys and gals, mostly these dudes, they were just writing these just heartbreaking songs, often from a place of living it.
Yeah.
You can't just,
Well, I'm always kind of amazed when I, even looking at when we were going through that song or the playlist, just shuffling and like waiting around to die.
Yeah.
Like Jesus. Or that song by the Beatles, Your Blues.
Yeah.
Even that, like when you were watching a concert or something in that song, when I was like, well, those lyrics are super dark.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Which is no surprise, but it's just kind of crazy, I think, that it's so prevalent that these people are struggling.
Yeah.
But
and we're just like,
but then when they die, we're so surprised. Like, really?
Yeah, and so shocked. Okay. And, shocked and saddened to learn. Yes, no. But it is so interesting that this is the continuing saga. This has not gone away. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm probably going to check out that Demi Lovato special. It's on YouTube because we do have YouTube Premium still.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's available through that. Nobody saw it coming. And she was just just dying inside and tried to end it. I mean, it's. But I mean, there's sad stories in some ways. I like, I don't need any more of that. But it is, if we're talking about a crossover with the other podcast, the one your mom's doing, I mean, this stuff is just, you never know. You never know.
Definitely, huh? I don't know. I think that'd be something if I were to fight for some change in the world, I'd probably go for something along those lines of in the music industry. I don't know. I was thinking, even when I was at the Bottle Depot yesterday, I'm like, and of course, where we live, of course, it's all 60-year-old men with beer. Yeah. And they're taking in their beer cans and they're going back to the broken homes they created. But I'm like, man, I feel like I would, if I were working there, I'd feel some responsibility to say, hey, this is a lot of beer. Are you doing okay?
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, some of those places, I always loved it when you go into a casino and then there's always these posters know your limit, stay within it. Well, okay, here's my $20, but. Or
even on cigarette packs.
Those are that's beyond ridiculous.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just.
But Bottle Depot would be a good place hey, you think you're having a problem? Yeah.
Yeah, well, and even it's just, cases and bags and meanwhile I'm this white kid wearing a Supreme hat coming in with a fucking bottle of big thing of Diet Pepsi cans God, it's great.
I know.
Such a schism or a juxtaposition maybe.
Absolutely. And the only way people could kind of deal was booze, and primarily booze, and there was other drugs depending on what part of the world you're in. So this isn't really new. I think that, with technology changing, moving forward, and the whole social media thing, it's a thing for sure. There's no question about that. But there's always been an element of like the human condition is a weird one. It is not because we have these conscious brains, we can just get ourselves into a whole bunch of trouble. And it's boy. Well, on that note, no.
Yeah.
But so anyway, hopefully you can check out Towns. I mean, but that rabbit hole, there's no end to the names. But yeah, Towns was always a name that was big for me, still is in my mind, and definitely left his impact. For me, it was obviously through the covers that the people had done of his tunes. But this is a weird curio, this album in particular, for the sake of the song, because it's one of those examples of where they tried to, shine him up. Willie Nelson went through that too. They tried to fit them into the sounds of the day or work with the quirkiness, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, they're just trying to take some creative control, or
sometimes it's creative control, and sometimes honestly, it's it is a Nashville thing for sure. It's like let's take the coal and turn it into a diamond, or let's sand off the rough edges and make it a little more palatable for the masses. And sometimes it works to great results. But it doesn't always work that way. So traditionally, before the Beatles, basically, bands or artists would record songs written by professional songwriters. They would go into professional recording studios. They would be recorded and engineered by amazing engineers and producers, and then the music would get put out there, and they would go perform these songs live. But the Beatles really shook it up because they wrote their own material, and then they started becoming part of the, it used to be like, don't touch that knob. Like that's for the unionized guys and gals to do, but they would just start monkeying with, like at the beginning of Revolution by the Beatles, that
oh, you're right. I remember that one.
That's like just plugging a guitar and cranking these knobs right beside you. Like, and you're not supposed to do that, but actually you're not really wrecking anything. But that's there's a line and you can't cross it. But so it really changed everything. So it put a lot of pressure on artists from then on. To the economic aspect, of course, too, is to write your own material. But it's just creatively, it's like that full expression. But the Nashville continued on this path, and to this day is still primarily like that, where you will have a person like a Townes Van Zandt write the songs, do their thing, living, doing the best they can, and then more famous people that have actually been able to jump across the line to sing these songs and get them out to the masses. So it's not the actual songwriter that gets known. But then, with liner notes, that was another Dylan thing, by the way. Dylan was one of the first to really use the liner notes as he would actually list who the musicians were.
Yeah, that's cool.
Obviously, he was primarily the songwriter.
That's kind of one thing that I like buying physical music for.
Totally.
Is to read and look at the pictures.
Well, yeah, it's an experience, right? That's why vinyl is amazing. Yeah, it's the tactile experience of it's like going to get the drugs. It's not the doing.
Definitely.
It's not the listening of the music. I could do that on Spotify.
London Drugs had a sale on 21st Century Breakdown by Green Day.
How much?
The CD, $7.
Oh, the CD.
The CD, yeah. And they had American Idiot on vinyl for $31, which sucks, but for vinyl, it's probably pretty good.
Well,
quality.
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, I still think in some ways it is too much, but it is expensive to make vinyl too. It's a labor-intensive process, and they do them in short runs. So, it costs a lot to because I just know because I've looked into doing my own records for fun.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
There's one of my buddies, Trevor Panzak. He actually did vinyl. He's
from
Lethbridge. Yeah, I'll have to introduce him. Yeah. He did his own. Yeah, or like he got it done. I think we had one in Edmonton here, Moonshot, I think it was called.
Oh yeah, like you would just go with like what do you do?
Well, so you create an acetate, so it's the inverse of the vinyl. They etch it. It gets recorded from the master, so it gets basically dubbed over, right? And then they take big globs of the liquid, whatever vinyl, and then it gets pressed with these big, like huge iron like cylinders, and then it just creates this like when you take Play-Doh and you push it
Yeah,
down
yeah.
into a thing. It's like that. That's how they make records, and
Cool.
it's and there's these big machines that come. They cut around it to make it
Yeah.
nice and round, and it's a very labor intensive thing to manufacture them too.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's such a niche thing now, a lot of those places that made vinyl, they just shut down. They sold off their stuff. They were expensive to maintain.
Yeah.
But enough. They did maintain some of them. Like if I recall, like in the '90s, I think Pearl Jam was always on vinyl. At least through the first ones. Even then, because vinyl never really went away in some areas of the world, if I recall, and cassettes too.
Cassettes I haven't seen make much of a comeback.
No, there was a lot of talk about that.
It's hard to predict when something will come back. But
Guardians of the Galaxy was the one. Hey?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first cassette in a
mixtape.
certain amount of time to actually. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. What was it? Awesome mixtape, I think it was called.
Yeah, Volume 1 or
Volume
something.
1
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty fun and cool. Yeah, and cassettes were or are still somewhat cheaper to make. Like if you want to do something that's tactile but kind of harkens back to an old time. Obviously, I've done all my stuff on cassette for fun, and I didn't do full sleeves or anything, but I just thought, just like a mixtape because
they are pretty cool.
It fit my brand too. With
actually, the singer of Haken, and actually when that record comes in, we should do an episode on that.
Sure.
But their singer Ross Jennings has a playlist. I think you'd actually probably like his playlist. Like the #1 song on his playlist right now is Chris Stapleton.
Really?
Which he's super cool music taste. I don't remember the song, but it's called "What's on My Walkman."
Nice.
So yeah, it's pretty
awesome.
pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love their stuff, man. That's
it's cool shit.
yeah. Which one is on its way? The Mountain one, right?
Mountain,
Is it called The Mountain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Introduction that I had to them.
Well, I'll have to make sure that I have a spot on the H in this podcast.
Yeah, clear it.
I pretty much need Hornsby, so that's
going
to have to happen.
Which one?
So.
I mean, I'm not.
It'll be the way it
familiar.
is. Yeah, we'll talk about the way it is.
Because I only know that. And was the album Harbor Lights? Was that what it was called, or was that just the song?
Yeah, that was not called Harbor Lights. It was actually, and I think that piece of art on the cover is called Harbor Lights. I think that it was.
Really?
Some art. It's I think a famous piece of art.
It's cool art.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. It's a famous picture. I think there's some sort of a story around that too. But.
Yeah. And then Here Come the Noisemakers is the only other one I know of.
The live album's so
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually really like I actually was inspired to learn the bass piece. If you remember, and because it's like intro / The Great Divide, and there's like that bass breakdown. Yeah. It sounds almost like the Mario.
Yeah, it does.
You know, yeah,
it totally does. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, no, Hornsby's my two Bruces. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, Hornsby and Springsteen. That's all you need right there. Speaking of Springsteen, you always got to fit a Springsteen thing in here. But in this case, I know that you've checked out Darkness on the Edge of Town already, and
I did, a couple days ago.
Born to Run fairly soon. Too.
I was thinking about doing that today. Actually, I was going to yesterday, and then I checked out something else.
Do it top to bottom. Yeah, just do it once, and then you'll want to do it again after. 8 songs.
Yes,
it just doesn't.
That is nice about a lot of music that I want to check out. Is that it's. I mean, when I listened to Tusk, there was like 20 songs, but a lot of them were just like 2 minutes. So by the time I was done from like starting my workout to the end, then it was
thank goodness. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But there were some really cool songs on Tusk.
There were a lot of really cool songs, and it's as a proper album, it's a hard listen at times for me. But I always thought you could make that into a pretty good single album if you wanted to. But the charm is that Lindsay was just a freaking genius, and he wanted to be Brian Wilson, and that was his Brian Wilson record. That was in fact, he even did The Farmer's Daughter, which is a Beach Boys song. He did they did it live on that tour, the Tusk tour. It was so obvious, right? But definitely love that.
Sweet.
But you get to Born to Run, but at a certain point you'll get to the album called Nebraska, and it's it was recorded in Bruce's bedroom on a TIAC 4-track machine. That 4-track machine, I think, is in the Hall of Fame, maybe.
Really?
It's very important because it was nobody expected him to release an album like that, but he submitted the songs to his manager, and they're like, these are the songs, I'm hoping to record them going to the band. And they couldn't beat him. They just put them out as is, but heavily influenced by guys like Hank Williams Sr. and I don't know about Towns in particular, but artists and songwriters like that. So it fits in that through line of the folk troubadour singer songwriter tradition, the Woody Guthries and.
I think I'd have to get through probably the more, I guess, like the superstars that are in front of their heroes like towns.
Yeah.
First, before I kind of delve into I don't know, to me, I guess it would be kind of like, like sneaking around back and checking out this guy first.
Yeah.
I think normally I'd listen to artists and then go into their influences.
Well, that's usually how we do it. I know,
Yeah.
of course, my dad went through the whole, like, these are the books that Springsteen liked to read, so now I'm going to read those books, or these are the albums that he always talks about, so then you check them out. And usually you kind of go backwards. You can't always go through the lineage. I mean, the nice thing about the passage of time is that we always have the luxury of reading books and doing the studying, but you would have even seen this with, like, Nirvana, like, all of the people that influenced Kurt Cobain in the book that you're reading now too. All of a sudden those bands and ours get known, with Pixies and and then when you listen to them, like, oh yeah, that's totally Nirvana, but you always think of the Nirvana sound or whatever.
Yeah, even like you mentioned them reading Perfume by Patrick Suskind. And it's totally Kurt's alley. Especially because, like, in utero, Kurt he seemed to, and he openly acknowledged that I think he just liked women, like, anatomically and like, Rape Me was a song that a lot of, Christians didn't like, but the song was actually mocking rape and
of course
speaking out against it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But totally very, very weird book, but it's very, very dark and cool.
Well, you can see where, like Cobain and I know we talked about Paul and John too.
Yeah.
The mommy issues are heavy with Kurt too, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And that can be, very,
Well, it's kind of brings on some, I guess, philosophical thoughts. Like I often, when I'm reading it, I think, like, it's kind of bizarre to think that, this legend that, actually me and Logan, as much as we love progressive music, we jammed to Nirvana probably more than any other band when we're not doing prog stuff, which is really cool because they're just a 4-chord kind of punk band.
They're a great 3-piece.
But I often think, like this legend laid his eyes on the same words I'm reading right now. And it's kind of weird to think about. Like, he said he had a pocket edition, he'd read it on the plane. I'm like, so he was in the sky to a world tour, and I'm reading these words that he was reading at some point. Yeah, it's kind of a weird,
for sure.
Weird thought.
It can trip you out.
It can.
But it's heavy. But that's the beauty of inspiration and the human condition. Yeah, we're all influenced and moved by things. And sometimes as hard as I tried, you can't pick the things that really get you, right? Like, you're exposed by certain things, and it's just the way the world works. I was, because I had been fortunate enough to go to the folk fests when I was quite young too. That was pretty formative, right? So seeing Guy Clark, and when I got to see Katie Lang when she had finally kind of hit her stride as a recording artist. She was just coming out of the Edmonton scene, moving forward.
I don't
into
know
the world
what
scene.
genre would you classify these people, because to me this sounded like what the songs we were playing sounded quite country-esque. What I would think of as country, or older country. Yeah, well,
they're called folk music festivals primarily. That was the origins of it, which would be singer-songwriter based, acoustic driven, and with that you'll get a number of R&B influences. You'll get world music. You'll get bluegrass, right? So they all kind of float in and out of this sphere, which is often referred to as like Americana, or now like that's become, or Canadiana. Like there's a more of a term for that. It's North American music, and it's at its core. So the best example of it is the band.
Oh yeah.
Right? So they had that, they had that sort of Civil War lyrics initially. Singing, about Acadian driftwood, it's not like singing about the Canadian, the Acadians leaving Canada. Like, musically, there was, there would be horns there, but there would also be an accordion, and there would be electric guitar, because it was still post rock and roll. So,
well, I think actually, I just thought of like 4 bands that kind of the Doors. I would like to probably check out.
Another mommy issue, by the way. Yeah,
Oh, really?
Well,
Jim Morrison?
Yeah, and if you, the one, he got arrested for singing, like, there's that one song about, daddy, and then he says, like, basically he's like, says, I want to have sex with my mom, kind of. He was like, because he was like, kind of had this weird, of course it was all mostly shock value, but that was like a big pivotal moment. There's a great movie, Oliver Stone directed a movie just called The Doors.
Okay.
And Val Kilmer played Jim Morrison. It's a good way to kind of get the story a little bit.
Yeah.
I've struggled with The Doors over the years because they were one of my earliest bands. Like, I never forget when Taylor was little. I think I turned like 11, and they knocked on my bedroom door, and Taylor gave me like the copy of the Doors' first album on CD.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I always have a soft spot for that one in particular.
Yeah.
And I have them all on CD, all the proper albums. But they really only had like 3 albums, I think, that are like crucial, or you could even do like a best of and kind of get the deal. But some guys, like, they really dig in. Yeah, you'd like them though, I think. Yeah, check them out.
Because
cool band too,
organ kind of thing.
Yeah, the band itself, like, technically no bass player. I think they did tour with a bass player, and I think later on they did have a guy that played bass for them. But yeah, all the bass was coming from the left hand on the organ.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, good guitar parts too. Really cool band. Yeah,
I love the organ sound of the older.
Organs. Yeah. So, and you said they had 4 bands. So
yeah, Boston was.
Yeah.
But I love the first record. Yeah. But I think of like that organ. I don't know why I'm thinking about that, but yeah. God. And then like Deep Purple.
John Lord was a legend, man. Yeah.
And I think there was one more I was thinking of, but for some reason the band made me think of the Doors, and then I thought about those.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, it's similar era. Yeah. I could see that for sure. I would think that. I mean, and you're also looking at opposite coast too. So the Doors were quintessentially an LA band. Whereas the band started in Woodstock, New York, so just north of New York City. There's a whole arts community up there. And the Woodstock Festival, of course, took place close to there, not actually at Woodstock, but very creative kind of area up there. But that's where the band recorded their first album. Big Pink was the name of the music from Big Pink, and then they recorded in a house that was pink, and and they were Dylan's band at the time, right? And that's
like they played for him. Or?
Yeah, they were his touring
I didn't know
band.
That.
Yeah,
that's
there's
cool.
a whole story. I'll have to get you either reading or watching the documentary about that because.
Cool.
But yeah, so they in some ways they are kind of polar opposites because the band was about they were anti-image, right? They would wear like very like old clothing, used clothing.
Yeah.
And like in homage to like Civil War stuff, or just like the kind of that get back to the grassroots. Whereas the Doors, at least Jim Morrison was kind of the flashy dashy front man.
Yeah.
Got arrested for showing his penis on stage, like that kind of guy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But both a big part of the whole story. I mean, and great keyboard player, like Garth Hudson's keys were that was a big part of their sound. They're very he used like early synthesizers and just made really, really cool stuff. Yeah.
What year was this out?
So that's the same year the band came out. Yeah, 68. Yeah.
Cool.
So I mean that was the Renaissance, right? That was the rock and roll Renaissance. So
where was he from?
Towns is from Fort Worth or Dallas or something. Yeah, he's from Texas anyway. Yeah. Okay. Ended up dying in Tennessee though, but because he was still a recording artist. But so his impact. Plus, what a cool name, hey. Like,
yeah, it is very cool.
Like Towns, and I think that was like his middle name. It was like John Towns Van Zandt or something. But which is an English thing, right? You call people by their middle names,
right?
Actually.
Yeah.
So, and that that name and his songs and the impact. I mean, the first time I remember seeing some reference to him a little bit more, other than the original exposure to him through Emmylou Harris and Merle and Willie, was a band called the Cowboy Junkies. They're a Canadian band.
Okay.
From Toronto, the Timmins siblings. Margot Timmins is the singer, and they were along with Blue Rodeo in the mid to late '80s. They were a band that were kind of arty punk, way early, but then they actually did like very country based music too, and they covered. I think they covered "To Live Is to Fly." And he wrote them a song called Cowboy Junkies Lament.
Oh, like Blue Rodeo? He wrote?
No,
he wrote them.
the Cowboy Junkies, yeah.
Or they wrote him.
He wrote a song for them called the Cowboy Junkies Lament.
Yeah.
And then they recorded, it was that album. Yeah, Black Eyed Man was a great album. Yeah. Okay. The Cowboy Junkies Lament, he wrote for them. And then they did a song called Towns Blues. And then they covered To Live Is to Fly. And that was like the end of the album. It was a very interesting way to end the album, I thought. Anyway, because it was they were still somewhat, on the rock charts a little bit. Like they had a few singles. They had to do it with John Prine too on that one. You were the woman and I was the man. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that was. I really liked that album. I think Chris went through a Cowboy Junkies face off to talk to him. Yeah, Michael Timmons is the main songwriter, and then his sister Margot is the singer.
Timmons.
Timmons.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Caution Horses. Yeah, like they had some great albums too. But yeah, that was I think the first time I remember seeing like more discussion about Townes Van Zandt in particular. And he was still alive by then, but not for long. Clearly, their big album's called the Trinity Session. They recorded it in this like old church, and they did a lot of. I think it was all covers or mostly covers anyway of like old country songs and I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. Yeah, Dreaming My Dreams. Yeah. Oh, they did Sweet Jane by Lou Reed too on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, Lou Reed's another kind of all the artists from the '60s and like late '50s kind of start to blend.
Well, yeah, he was late '60s, but yeah.
They even start to blend, like in jazz and stuff. Like
for sure, all the genres, yeah. Well, you'll get into it, and you may never totally dig Lou Reed. Actually, it's funny, like Lou Reed was now he's dead, a terrible singer, and like Townes Van Zandt or Chris Christopherson, like they're just god awful vocalists, right? But there is a charm to them singing their own songs that they've written. But it always works better when, in my mind, when there is a singer that can deliver the song in a way that is more pleasing to the ear.
I had a question about was Lou Reed the guy who did A Perfect Day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, because Pain of Salvation covers it on their album, their 9th album, Falling Home.
Yeah, Perfect Day. Yeah. That was and Bowie produced. Bowie started like a lot of those artists. They start to support the acts that were important to them when they're needing a hand up, kind of thing. And Lou Reed Transformer it was his second solo record, but it was great. I mean, it's but he's one of those artists that, like, if you could get past some of the weirdness, I mean, album to album, they were also all over the place too. I even stopped at a certain point. The album called Berlin, you'll want to check out at some point.
Okay.
It was like one of those sort of albums that had an arc, like a kind of a concept album, and nobody loved it at the time. Now a lot of people talk about it, but they're very similar kind of vocal styles where they try and sing and then it just kind of falls off the note, and but that's okay. Yeah, I mean it's very cool. I mentioned Heart Worn Highways, the movie, of course. Very, very important movie. It didn't get released till years after it had actually been shot. So it was recorded in the mid '70s and then came out later. But it's just really interesting to see these guys in their prime. Ultimately, I mean, prime drinking and smoking.
That is the prime.
Totally.
Which is always amazing, actually. That I always thought that they can perform.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, but they do, and that's part of the charm. Yeah. And then the other thing, I mentioned his name too. So Steve Earle, his son was named Townes.
Right.
Joel Justin. It was JT or Justin Townes Earle. Yeah. And we just lost him. He passed away not too long ago.
That was suicide, right?
Yeah. Well, it was drug overdose, but I mean, he had a hard time, so it wouldn't
accidental.
Likely, yeah. I think he had been like a lot of these people. They get clean, and then when they go back, they start doing as much or more than they did before, and then it knocks them out. Yeah. So that was tough to watch because obviously one of my heroes, Steve Earle, and then seeing his son. Knowing about his son, like there was a song called "Little Rock and Roller" on the Guitar Town album, and that was about Justin.
Cool.
It was a song that he wrote and recorded for his son, and Kevin Welch did the same thing on his first record, a song for Dustin. It was called, and it's funny because all those kids ended up having like a band together. So these kids of my heroes, are about my age or younger, whatever at times. And they all have these shared experiences themselves, right? Their dads are these, singer-songwriter touring legends, and they're never home, but they're impacting my life and your life.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Meanwhile, they're abandoning their children. So hence another reason why I tried to stick around at home a lot. But, for you, but I did my share of music, of course. But mostly weekends and stuff.
No,
the industry changed.
When I was younger, I remember you were touring a bit.
Yeah, with Gord.
Besides that, a
lot. Yeah. And I had busy times of the years for sure. But
I think I kind of thought it was just cool.
Well, yeah, and I think it was too. But plus, I think a lot is made. Oh, these dads were gone a lot, but also they're. I think the Steve Earle was about. He's like, when I was home, I was in the bathroom a lot. Because he was doing heroin, right? So doing drugs in the bathroom. You're home, but you're not really home anyway.
Yeah.
So, but it's sad that like Justin ended up with his own problems.
Yeah.
Justin
Did he have any music?
Well, yeah, he was a singer-songwriter as well, and
Okay.
there's some. I read an article that kind of disturbed me a bit about that because it really sounds like Steve was pretty hard on
Right. I think
Justin
we were talking
Towns,
about that.
because he was. I think he just wanted his dad's approval, and he was a pretty good songwriter, singer, but he ended up living the life that he was writing about, and ended up dying from it, and it's really sad. But on a more positive note, so he was named after Townsend's, and then from Alberta here we have a girl named Tennille. She goes by Tennille Towns.
Okay. Oh, I've never heard of her.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have met her. I mean, she's quite young. I mean, she's not even 30 yet, but she's really from Grand Prairie, and she's a huge pop country star. In
Towns.
Her name is Tennille Towns. Like her real last name is Nadish. Very hard to pronounce.
After,
but they changed her last name to more of a stage name, and they used Towns, and I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know if she would have been influenced by him or not. I don't think so.
Did they say it was a reference to Towns?
They never addressed it. No.
Was it spelled the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I feel like.
But they needed to give her a different last name because her real last name is very hard to pronounce and spell.
That is a big thing, I think.
It is. Yeah, it used to be a lot more common. I think back in the day, you would just instantly be given a different stage name, and then you're kind of left with this legacy of having a different name. But of course, nowadays with social media, just the internet in general, it's so easy to find out things about people. You can't really hide. Like it's just whether or not you're going to use your real name or part of it. I mean, I struggled with that too. I mean, like KARAC is a cool name, but it's also like to me, it's been kind of a nuisance. But
I've never. I mean, the only person I think I've seen KARAC is KARAC Plant.
Of course, that's kind of
where it comes from.
There are a few, like if you start searching it up, it's always like in Britain there'll be like this KARAC so and so, and he'll be a guitar player in some band, because their dad was a fan too or whatever. Led Zeppelin, but what's in a name, right? That's the Shakespeare stuff. It's your name is your name, and of course I've got the hyphenated last name issue. You're going to have to deal with that too. Figure out just go by Hendricks. Well, I mean our last name is Hendricks West for sure, hyphenated, and that's all part of my journey, which extends to you, and that's but it's as far as a stage name goes, I mean
got options.
Well, you do, of course, and now of course there's like that. Is it there's that girl named Her Her?
I don't know.
Yeah, like she was an artist under a different name, and then she changed it. Also, Lana Del Rey had like a couple different names too.
Oh yeah.
She before she finally took that name on, and sometimes they use that name as a signal that this is a different project. I am this project. It sounds like a band name sometimes, but it's like even like The Weeknd. Oh, is your name The, and then your last name is Weeknd? Like really? Yeah, but people understand that he has this other name, but we call him The Weeknd. And it's
Eminem.
Cool. Well, I mean, obviously the hip hop community has a little bit different.
I mean they have
legacy,
a lot of it, but I guess.
But it is. But whereas again in country or at least music where the lyrics are kind of front and center, there's a feeling that there's an honesty and an integrity and with the listeners. They feel like they know you, and in some ways they do know more about you than maybe you want to. But
Yeah, I always think about that when we're talking about people. Like,
yeah,
kind of crazy how much.
well,
you can
anonymity is
learn.
hard. I mean, unless you just completely go off social media. I mean, it's easy to disappear if you want, but I mean, if you're in this journey, our job is to get out there and sing our songs and tell our stories and connect with people. And in the country community, especially, people need to feel like they know you, and sometimes that means you using at least part of your whatever your given name is, your last name and all that. So quite the quite the stories anyway. But so this was a good chat around Townes Van Zandt. Check him out. The playlist is already available, and it's been a good excuse to talk about Townes. You know, his legacy will always live on, and he is the watermark that we all try to strive for when we're writing songs. There are a number of others too. In fact, I see that on the back, I didn't even notice till now, Mickey Newberry actually writes the back of, he wrote the...
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, Mickey is also another one of those songwriters from the American tradition of amazing folk-based singer-songwriters. And a lot of the music that... most of the music that I'm influenced by and moved by, and even some of the stuff you are, it's built on the shoulders of these guys.
Definitely.
So it's important that we remember that and
check it out.
Full show. Okay, well, KARAC Hendricks, this road is mine, and Cohen Hendricks across the table. So we'll chat with you soon.